You can argue that our engineering schools aren't properly training their students for today's industrial environment, and you'd likely win that argument. Hear more on this subject in this week's DevTalk with Rich and Vin. Good afternoon. Welcome to the DevTalk with Rich and Vin podcast. I'm Rich, the guy up there near the corner is Vin. How you doing, Vin?
I'm great, Rich. How are you?
I am doing just fine. You look like you're in a weird place. Where are you?
I'm actually on site at a client, but always can make time to do these podcasts because I think they're really important and, get my biweekly dose of Rich Nass. So
Where is your client?
outside of Atlanta, Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're working on some technology and some organizational stuff and, looking at how we can bring new college grads in to sort of refresh some things and get new perspectives. And obviously they're taught different things than we were taught 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So
you can come visit me because at our local Daytona airport, there's 5 flights a day and every one of them goes to Atlanta.
it must be Delta. There's an saying when I lived in the Northeast as a kid, you couldn't go to heaven out of Florida without going through Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that was,
if you want to be Delta, that's what you got to do. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so back up. What are you saying here about connecting people with academia and industry and that kind of thing?
Well, I was thinking about this a lot the other day because I have a friend. I don't know if you ever watched the TV series Suits.
I love Suits. I'm Harvey.
Okay. Well, you're Harvey. I thought I was Harvey. That's not fair. I think you're Louis Litt. Anyway. For those people who don't watch it, it's definitely worth a watch. But I have a friend who just started watching it, and we were talking about it. And I was joking that it's a law firm. They only want to hire students out of Harvard, and it got me thinking about STEM. And, it's a TV show. It's obviously fake.
So you would only hire people out of Stevens? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I might only hire people out of Stevens. You might only hire people out of New Jersey Institute of Technology. So we'll see. But, I started thinking about the relationship between businesses and the schools they come from. And
is there one?
Well, there isn't as strong a one as there should be. And I think for decades we got by because there was a lot of practical knowledge and a lot of labs that were taught with the theory in schools. But now there's so much theory to be taught on the STEM side that.
But it was always like, hey, donate equipment to the school, get them used to our equipment. So then when they graduate, they can come work for us because they already know how to use our equipment. And that was like the extent of it for so long.
Yeah, that's great. If you're Tektronix or HP or somebody like that's not HP anymore, it's Keysight.
But even on the software side too, the people with software tools were doing the same thing.
Yes, but what do you do for somebody who's building HVAC or somebody who's building motor control or somebody who's building industrial equipment, right? They are not going to donate. Branson Ultrasonics isn't going to donate welders to Stevens or New Jersey Institute of Technology. So somebody coming out knows how to weld plastic. And the controls now are a part of everything. So electrical engineering especially is hidden inside products that would be used in the labs. And so who do you get to design those controls? And I started thinking about a new model, and we talked about this briefly when we had Kevin on a few weeks ago, a new model for how we help students transition from academia to industry. And, there's an organization that has already done a really good job of this for a very long time, but a lot of people don't know about it. And I think in our listenership, that's very true. So I think we ought to talk about what they do and how they do it. The organization is called ACETA. It's the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department Heads Association. They meet all year and they have an annual conference, which brings industry and academia together. And luckily,
but how well is that attended? Like who actually goes to these things?
Well, you know what? I think we ought to bring an expert on to talk about it. We just happen to have the person running ACETA, who's actually his dad co-founded it decades ago. So, and it turns out it's somebody you know from your past as well. So this time I'm going to let you introduce him because you guys are old friends.
John Janowick. I actually have no idea what your title is these days, but welcome to the podcast, John.
Oh, Rich, it's so good to see you. And Vin, thanks for having me.
So what is your role here with this association that being described?
I've been fortunate to be part of some of the leading technical nonprofits my whole career, and one, and so I have basically a nonprofit management or an association management company that I manage several 501c3s and foundations, and all in advanced technology. And so, I think our past, Rich, was back in the old EDA design con days that we
Yep,
crossed paths. and
that is
and
correct.
right, and that was under an organization called the International Engineering Consortium. But I run things like the Marconi Society, which is an international nonprofit in advanced technologies and wireless AI and quantum, and so and several other industry nonprofits. But the one that's most relevant for our conversation here today is an academic nonprofit that Vin mentioned, which is the ACETA organization. And literally, I was around, straight out of college 43 years ago. My father had, got a request from Georgia Tech, NC State, University of Florida, Clemson University to help set up this collaboration between all the department heads in the Southeast. And quickly we embraced it and grew it into a national and an international organization, which brings together, all the ECE chairs, in North America, so US and Canada.
Well,
And
what's the
it's
charter? Just
the
aside from
charter
bringing
is
them
to is
together.
yeah, it's really to help them collaborate and catalyze everything from curriculum to labs to research to grants, federal funding, private funding, and corporate relations. And so what we've done is, we have all, really the three pillars, government, industry, and academia all collaborating together. And
What's the
it's
industry contribution to that?
it's tech in general. It's EDA, it's robotics, it's anything. The target is the electrical and computer engineering department. So any industry that really requires ECE at its core is
Mhm.
is where we intersect with industry, which is if you think about disciplines, ECE is the broadest discipline. I mean, it
Mhm.
really is in terms of engineering. And so, I love introducing the organization to new areas. Obviously, we're working real hard these days in machine learning and artificial intelligence and other areas, quantum. So it's a dynamic organization. We have approximately, out of the 300 ECE departments, about 280 as members. And so a very high penetration. Normally what we do is the turnover as a department chair is relatively high. So, we're constantly trying to renew the membership with people that we're missing. But it's everyone from MIT down to the state school. And so, we have a tiered membership from a dues structure, but also services. We help the teaching colleges and we help the R1s.
Well,
And
hold on.
sure.
Why did you say it that way? From the MIT down to the state school, like the state school is the bottom of the barrel there.
No,
I'm
no,
a
not at
product of
all.
the state school, and I think
Not
it's a
not
damn good state school.
not at all. As a matter of fact, there's for the top, R1s, that their teaching mantra is somewhat less than they're more into research versus
Right.
the ones that are at the bottom of the research or curriculum and enrollments. Those are as important or more important than in the R1s in terms of information, new technologies, learning, new pedagogy methodologies. I mean, there's all sorts of things. The needs are different. That's what I was trying to explain, Rich, is the needs for the research ones and the needs for the teaching colleges are different. And we have programs that hopefully help, each one of those categories of engineering schools.
Okay,
Yeah.
so back to my original question, though. what's the industry involvement in this? I understand where the academia is
Yeah.
involved. Do you
So,
have practicing
well,
engineers coming into the organization to say, hey, this is the way you need to be teaching because this is what they're going to face when they get out in the real world?
yeah, you know, um, yeah, on our pre-call, you mentioned something where, you'd have industry supporting academic curriculum through their technology. And that is, something that a few key industrialists years ago cracked. The two that I loved was Bill and Dave, from HP. They knew if you had the engineers, today's practicing engineers practicing on and using your equipment in the lab, they were going to come out on top because you're basically, having all these new grads that want their, latest technologies and their latest devices in their workplace and their new workplaces. So it was it's a long marketing channel in terms of investing in the universities. But honestly, that pipeline is critical, and you're still finding out how companies struggle with that pipeline. And the real, getting to the core, which is in higher education, is the best way to tap into that pipeline.
Yeah, and I've seen this actually from both sides because, as you know, I've been an adjunct professor, but I've also been in industry for years. And
Right.
one of the things that companies have struggled with is, hey, we'd love to help universities learn how to use our equipment or learn how to design with our chips or whatever, but we don't understand the way they're teaching and what information we need to provide to them to effectively support the classroom experience, right? And so industries
Right.
get that information from the people at this organization or the people in their organizations at the school, right? The department head will connect them with the professor and they'll say, hey, we're teaching circuits one. We really need a way to visualize how current is flowing or what happens with power or whatever. And you get a company like Keysight who has the ability to look at these signals, or you get a company like ADI or Renesas or whoever who make the chips, and they will be able to provide the kind of resource material that can be used in the classroom. So the companies learn that and contribute that. And of course, they're branded and people know their name when they get out of school. You and I have talked about this before, Rich. One of the reasons ARM is so ubiquitous is because they invested in the universities. And when kids got out, they knew that architecture, and that's the architecture that they picked, right?
So what about the OEMs, like Whirlpool, for example? How does this help them? They want people to know their stuff and come work for them.
Because
the automakers is another example.
Because they know their long-term vision and they know the skills that they need 5 years out. And so they can say to the universities, hey, we see emerging in our industry AI being used in controls, or touchscreens being used in our controls, or higher integration in chips. So it's no longer a board level design, it's now a chip level design. So
but are those companies seeding the universities? I mean, let's use the white goods people for
the smart ones are rich.
Yes, the smart ones are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was not aware of that. That's great.
Well, the thing, Rich, is, and I just, alluded to it, it is a long play. It's not something that they're going to, be able to measure the ROI, right away. It is, it's getting your brand out, getting your technology out when the kids are learning. I mean, that's, and talk about the perfect time to introduce your products and services is by providing those to students, and being part of the curriculum is sort of the golden egg, in terms of corporate involvement in academia. Now it comes at a cost, and it comes at a dedicated effort. I've seen companies come in and they're like, oh yeah, gung ho, and they only do it for a couple of years, and they you get a bean counter. Hate to say it, you get a bean counter and they're like, show me the ROI. Well, there is not a measurement for ROI in terms of dedicating, and really investing in the next generation of engineers. That's what I, I love working with companies. I know you've mentioned Keysight a couple of times here, and other companies, all the
Yeah.
ones you mentioned are actually part of our organization as
Yeah.
corporate members. And they understand that you can't, this is not, a one and done or a 2-3 year commit. This is a multiple year commitment. And it's also something that these young engineers walk away with, and they have an affinity for the products, the services, the culture. I mean, and that's still alive today. So I mean, I think it's important that engineers feel supported. Engineers feel that they can rely on technology companies that give back and invest. And so and certainly it's not all altruistic. These companies are looking for the latest engineers to come and work for them, and the best engineers. And so establishing that one-on-one relationship with industry allows the companies to get close and have influence on the curriculums, so that they're graduating engineers that can come in and immediately be effective in their organizations. Now, AI is changing a lot, and so there's a
Yeah.
paradigm shift happening in terms of hiring new engineers, and it hasn't, in my opinion, it hasn't shook out yet. As a matter of fact, you mentioned our annual meeting for this organization, the ACETA
Yep.
conference. It's in March, and right now we have an AI accelerator program. I call it the AI accelerator because AI is accelerating how we're teaching, what we're teaching, and what are the core elements that every student needs when they walk out of there. So this AI accelerator actually is, we had it as a special pre-conference workshop. It's outstripped the conference. Everyone in academia is trying to figure out how they address AI in the curriculum, how they address AI in the lab, how they address AI, embedded into, everything that an engineer is learning. So there's a new paradigm out there that's, quickly adopting. And I'm talking to faculties, Rich and Vint, and they're like, if we don't do this, it's like the old days, are we going to still use the slide rule, or are we going to use that new thing called the computer?
Well,
I mean, that's the analogy I can make here.
Yeah,
This might be a little outside of
Go ahead.
This might be outside of your purview, but are we at the point where what we're teaching these engineers, the graduating engineers, they don't actually need those skills anymore, because those skills are going to be handled by the AI. So we need to teach them something different.
I disagree. I think it's changing the opportunities for new grads, but they need the skills to understand and interpret what the AI is generating to make sure that it's still correct, because AI is not flawless, right? So
right, but isn't the AI doing that first job that the engineer had to do?
Yes, it's
and that's what the schools are training these kids for. That thing that they don't need to do anymore. They need to do something different. So have we changed the academic program to? Okay.
Rich,
this is just like we're in court, John, and when you shake your head, the audience can't see
you.
You're on record as saying no.
I'm shaking my head in agreement with you, because the ignorance that I see, and I shouldn't say ignorance, the sort of bury your head in the sand, approach that some of these academic institutions take. I mean, they're going to get their lunch eaten. I mean, if they don't embrace AI into the curriculum. And Vint, I know you understand the premise of the fundamentals, and teaching the fundamentals is real important. Yet it's not as necessary, as to Rich's point, as it has been in the past.
No, I agree.
And you turn off some of the best engineers on, at least in our discipline, ECE, and they become, I don't mean to say this is a lesser discipline, but they become MEs, or they become, they get,
Oh, it's definitely lesser discipline.
No, you're right.
You said
You're
it,
right.
I didn't, Rich.
But, but you have to be careful. John, you mentioned bean counters, but it's not just bean counters. It's CEOs or the C-suite
Oh, yeah.
and the finance
Yeah.
people and the marketing
Yeah.
people. What you don't want to do is say, oh, they don't need to know anything. It's, you can't design products with Arduino either, right? I mean, Arduino is a good prototyping tool, but not something you'd ship a product with. And it's the same thing. You don't want to just ship code that's been written by AI and nobody's looked at it and verified it. So you have to find a new balance. I mean, I tell students,
my point, that now the engineer, his first level is verifying that code. It's where it used to be writing the code.
Writing the code.
Yes,
right.
for sure.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Rich.
Right.
Yeah. But the fundamentals are still a requirement. But quickly, it's using today's advanced tools through AI, machine learning, and other tools that is going to be effective. So embedding those into, after you're done with embedding those into the curriculum and the labs is critical, and partnering with companies that are pushing the envelope in those areas is critical. So I look at it as you guys are making me tell all my secrets. CS, come on, Rich, it's been eating our lunch, for ECE for the last, couple of decade. Now, if you look at the enrollments, CS is, and ECE is going way up. And that's because this is the era of advanced engineering, advanced information technologies and intelligence, and it's back to the broad-based understanding of engineering, technologies, systems, and infrastructure is really the core of ECE, and that gives you the basis that you can take anywhere. But AI is here to stay. It's here. And the universities that embed it into their curriculums, embed it into their labs, and embrace it are going to be so much more advanced and further ahead than ones that don't. And I was on campuses. I was down in Florida, Rich, as I mentioned in our pre-meeting. I went and saw 4 universities. 3 are embracing. 1 was sort of making it a nice feel good. I'll tell you, if you don't embrace it quickly, the world's passing you by.
Yeah. You work with universities outside the United States, John?
I do in my other roles. One, I just came off a call with the University of Bologna a few minutes ago. One of the oldest universities in the world.
Yeah, the oldest.
And it is. It is the oldest. Yeah.
So what's your feeling with how who's ahead, who's behind, or is geography irrelevant?
No, it's not irrelevant. I think, the countries that are investing in AI, obviously, are having, I can't say this for ourselves anymore, but, the countries that are investing in AI, it does trickle into the universities. This administration obviously doesn't hold that opinion. This administration feels like the universities are rich enough and they should do their own thing. I mean, it's a dark time for academia and government relations. It's kind of we're missing this opportunity, because I work all over the world. We're missing this opportunity of losing our technology's dominance, and AI is a big part of that. Fortunately, we have the infrastructure from the corporate side and research side to support it right now, but that's not going to last. I don't know if it'll last the next 3 years.
Right. And it's an interesting point because, Rich, you and I are very, very familiar with industry conferences where companies who are competitors are competing even at the conference. But the feeling on the expo floor at the ACETA conference is completely the opposite. You got, you look at, we talked about Keysight, but Fluke is there. Right. Tech is there. So, and even the PC scopes are, the people have plug-in equipment on USB that are realized on PCs, right? They are all there. They are sharing their knowledge, that they are working together to move in a single direction, because this for them is not about current revenue. It's not about competition. It's about the future for society in general. This is part of their community give back. I mean, you've heard me talk about this, right? The five stakeholders in any business are investors, customers, employees, suppliers and partners, and the community. And this is very much a community thing, so that the community of engineering is moving forward and they're working together. And you don't see that level of cooperation on other show floors because they're vying for people's eyes. But in this conference, they're not vying for people's eyes for their business. They're all working together to move the industry forward. And even, people like DigiKey are on the floor, who are distributors for this equipment, and Test Equity is on the floor, distributors for this equipment, and they're all working together to help things. So it's actually a societally inspiring conference. I love going to this conference, and I've been there 12 out of 15 years, John. I mean, I've been there a lot. Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, there is, I'd have to say, sort of a higher purpose and mission that the companies that are there, as well as the academics, the collaboration that happens on the academic side is very timely. There is this enormous free flow sharing of information about how effective you can make your curriculum and labs function together. Research dollars, which is obviously something that's been affected by this administration, but learning how to be effective researchers and PIs, and I mean, it's just it's a wealth of knowledge and people working together, to support our industries that we have there. So but Rich, we should have you come out at some point. I know you and I have intersected on some of the industry activities we've run.
Yep.
But I think you would really be right at home.
I very much welcome that. So if people want to get more information, where would they go?
ecedha.org, ecedha.org. Okay. And the program that we've been referring to is coming up in actually it's a very cool location. It's between Santa Fe and Albuquerque on this Indian reservation, and it's a beautiful resort
place,
called the Hyatt Tamaya, and it's owned by the tribal nation there, and it's a 4 or 5 star resort, and it's a kind of a mystical place, but it allows you're away from everything, there's no towns or anything around there. And so it's truly this incubator, I would say, of really smart people and great technologies, all kind of designed to serve the next generation of engineers.
Yeah. And the last couple of years, I've been doing some video to put together a long form social media post on the conference. And Rich, I'd like to finish that up this week and have you guys post it along with this podcast on the website. I think that would be a really cool thing. And I would encourage any of our listeners, we talk about big companies, but this is not an organization just for big companies to join. Smaller companies who want to see technology evolve, want to be able to work with students, want to have insight and some influence on what's going on in universities. This is the perfect forum to make that happen. So I would encourage companies of all sizes to get involved with the organization.
Awesome. Yeah, and Rich, one of the things, I've run some of the largest trade shows and conventions all over the world, and we apply all of our best practices to this, relatively small community. It's about 500 to 700 people that come to it, and it's really quite magical. We feed I think the latest information, but we also feed the interpersonal relationships and connections and networking at this as much as the technical side, because it's critical that engineers learn from each other and build those relationships, that trusted relationship that they can utilize in their careers and their research.
Very good. Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate you taking the time
Yeah,
to
it's great to see you, Rick. Yeah, thank
educate
you for
me,
having me.
educate Vin for sure, but to educate the audience, that's the important part.
Yeah. Well, listen, anytime. I enjoy working with you guys.
Okay.
Great.
Take care.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care.
John.
Bye-bye.
Yep.